My name is Liya. The day the bank teller looked at me with deep pity and slid my application back across the desk, my mother was busy posting photos of her brand new kitchen remodel on Facebook. 6 months later, that same mother was standing in the pouring rain on my porch, clutching a foreclosure notice and begging me on her knees to drop the police charges. What happened between those two moments didn't just break my heart, it destroyed my family forever. Welcome back to the channel. Today's story is one that might make your blood boil. It's about trust. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe so you never miss an upload, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Let's begin. My name is Liya. For as long as I can remember, I've been the responsible one. At 24, I was working 60-hour weeks as a junior graphic designer, living in a tiny studio apartment that smelled faintly of old water pipes. I didn't mind the grind, though. I had a goal. I had spent the last 4 years meticulously saving every spare dollar for a down payment on a modest little house. I drove a beat-up sedan with a rattling engine, skipped vacations, and packed my lunches. I checked my savings account balance almost every night before bed. It was my safety net, my proof that I was building a life. But I had no idea that while I was building my future, someone else was secretly tearing it down. To understand how it all went so wrong, you have to understand my family dynamic. I have an older brother, Marcus. Marcus is 28, charming, loud, and entirely allergic to hard work. In our house, the sun rose and set on Marcus. If he wanted a new guitar, my parents found the money. If he wrecked his car, it was just an accident, and they'd co-sign a new lease for him. I was the invisible daughter. I was expected to figure things out on my own. Liya's independent, my mother used to say, waving a hand dismissively whenever someone asked why they hadn't helped me with college tuition. She doesn't need our help. And she was right. I didn't need their help. I just wanted their love. I thought things couldn't get worse than the constant emotional neglect. I was wrong. The weirdness started last November. For the previous 2 years, my parents had complained endlessly about money. My dad had been forced into early retirement, and my mom worked part-time at a local clinic. But suddenly, their lifestyle drastically shifted. First, it was the kitchen remodel. $40,000 worth of custom cabinets and marble countertops. Next, Marcus suddenly quit his dead-end retail job and announced he was starting a luxury auto detailing business. My parents bought him a top-of-the-line work van and thousands of dollars in equipment. When I went over for Sunday dinner, I asked them how they afforded it all. My dad poured himself an expensive glass of scotch, smiled, and said, "We just made some smart investments, sweetie. You should learn to take a few risks yourself." But that wasn't the worst part. 6 months later, my lease was up. I'd finally reached my savings goal. I found a beautiful, small townhouse in a quiet neighborhood. It was perfect. I walked into the mortgage broker's office feeling like $1 million. I had the down payment in my account, a great job, and I had never missed a credit card payment in my life. The broker, a kind older man named Mr. Henderson, ran my information. I sat across from him, sipping a stale cup of office coffee, dreaming about what color I was going to paint the living room. Then Mr. Henderson's face dropped. He frowned at his computer screen, clicked his mouse a few times, and looked at me with a mixture of confusion and pity. "Liya," he said slowly, "are you aware of the business loan on your profile? Your credit score is 410. You're severely delinquent on a $50,000 line of credit." The room started spinning. I couldn't breathe. "What? Well, I don't own a business. I don't have a loan. There must be a mistake." He turned the screen around. There it was. An uncollateralized business loan, opened 18 months ago. The monthly payments had stopped entirely 3 months ago. The debt was sitting in collections, racking up exorbitant late fees. I had no idea what was coming. I drove straight to my parents' house in a blind panic. I assumed my identity had been stolen by a hacker. I walked through their front door, tears streaming down my face, clutching the printed credit report. My mother was sitting at her new marble island, flipping through a magazine. Marcus was on the couch playing video games. "Mom, someone stole my identity," I sobbed. "Someone took out a massive loan in my name. My credit is destroyed. I can't buy the house. I have to go to the police." My mother froze. The color completely drained from her face. She slowly set the magazine down. Marcus paused his game, staring at the floor. "Liya, calm down," my mother said, her voice shaking slightly. "Don't overreact. Let's not bring the police into this." "Overreact?" I screamed. "Mom, it's $50,000. That's when my dad walked in from the garage. He took one look at the paper in my hand, sighed heavily, and said the words that shattered my reality. "We did it, Liya." I stood there paralyzed. You did what?" "We took out the loan," my dad said, crossing his arms defensively. "Marcus needed the capital for his business. His credit was shot and ours wasn't great. We just used your information. You never use your credit anyway. You just hoard your cash. We were going to pay it back before you ever noticed. They had my social security number. They had my old bank statements from when I lived at home. They forged my signature online. You stole my identity." My voice broke. "You ruined my life for Marcus's failing business." "Don't be so dramatic," my mother snapped, instantly reverting to her old dismissive self. "We're family. Family helps family. Marcus just had a slow few months, that's why the payments lapsed. You're young, you can buy a house later. Stop being so selfish." Selfish. The word echoed in my head. They had stolen $50,000 in my name, wrecked my future, and they were calling me selfish. But I wasn't just going to cry and take it. I left the house without another word. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I opened my laptop and started digging. I realized I needed hard evidence before I went to the authorities. Since the loan was in my name, I was legally entitled to all the documents from the bank. The next morning I called the lending institution. After answering a dozen security questions, I got access to the portal. What I found was sickening. They hadn't just taken out a loan. My mother had linked the loan disbursements to a joint checking account I had completely forgotten about, one she opened with me when I was 16 to deposit my high school tutoring money. From there, she had been funneling the loan money directly into her own personal accounts and Marcus's business account. Then, the final nail in the coffin appeared in the file. To secure the loan, they needed to show proof of income. My parents had actually fabricated a fake employment letter claiming I was the vice president of Marcus's detailing company, inflating my income to 6 figures. They had used their home IP address to digitally sign the documents. It was federal wire fraud, identity theft, and bank fraud, all wrapped into one neat trackable package. I gathered every IP log, every transfer receipt, and every fake document. I put it all in a thick manila folder. Gave them one last chance. I texted my dad, "You have 24 hours to pay off the loan in full, or I am filing a police report for identity theft." His reply came back 5 minutes later. "Stop threatening us. We don't have the money. We spent it. If you go to the cops, you'll destroy this family. Grow up, Liya." They thought I was bluffing. They thought the quiet, responsible daughter would just absorb the debt to keep the peace. The next morning, I walked into the local police precinct and handed the detective the manila folder. Because the amount was over $50,000 and involved wire fraud, the detective didn't just take a report. He escalated it immediately. I also filed a formal fraud affidavit with the bank, providing the police report number. The karma didn't take long to arrive. 3 days later, I was sitting at my desk at work when my phone started blowing up. 10 missed calls from my mother. 5 from Marcus. I let them all go to voicemail. When I finally listened to them, the panic in my mother's voice was absolute music to my ears. The bank had frozen the joint account. Worse, because my parents had funneled the fraudulent funds into their personal accounts, the bank's fraud department had placed a freeze on all of their assets pending an investigation. That evening, Marcus showed up at my apartment building. He bypassed the buzzer and waited for me in the parking lot. "You psycho!" he yelled as I got out of my car, stepping toward me aggressively. "The bank froze my business accounts. Can't buy supplies. You're ruining my life." I looked at him, completely deadpan. "You ruined your own life, Marcus. You and Mom and Dad. You stole from me." "It's just money," he screamed. "Drop the charges. Call them right now and say you authorized it." "No," I said calmly, hitting the lock button on my car keys. "Have fun in court." I turned and walked inside, my heart pounding, but a massive weight lifting off my shoulders. I was finally done protecting people who never protected me. The final confrontation happened a month later. The police had gathered enough evidence. My parents were officially charged with identity theft and fraud. Because they couldn't access their frozen funds, they couldn't pay the mortgage on their house. The same house with a fancy new $40,000 kitchen. My mother showed up on my porch on a rainy Tuesday evening. She looked 10 years older. Her hair was unkempt, and she was crying hysterically. "Liya, please," she begged, standing in the rain while I held the door open just a crack. "They're going to take the house. We're going to be homeless. Your father might go to jail. You have to tell the district attorney you made a mistake." I looked at the woman who had spent my entire life putting me second. "I didn't make a mistake, Mom," I said softly. "You did." I closed the door and locked it. The aftermath was brutal, but utterly satisfying. The bank cleared the fraudulent debt from my name once the criminal charges were formally filed. My credit score rebounded within a few months. My parents, faced with overwhelming evidence, had to take a plea deal to avoid prison time. The judge ordered heavy restitution. To pay it, and to cover their legal fees, they were forced to sell their house at a massive loss. They moved into a cramped 2-bedroom rental on the bad side of town. Marcus's business collapsed completely. Without my parents funding his lifestyle, he was forced to sell his van and equipment to pay off his own debts, and he ended up back at a minimum wage retail job. As for me, 2 months ago I finally closed on my townhouse. I painted the living room a warm, sunny yellow. I don't speak to my family anymore, and honestly I've never been happier. They thought they could use me as a stepping stone, but all they did was hand me the hammer I needed to finally break free. Antagonists lose their house, business collapses, face legal consequences and severe financial ruin, while the protagonist successfully buys her home and restores her credit. And that brings us to the end of Liya's incredible journey. It is truly terrifying what people are capable of, especially those who share your blood. Her parents prioritized their golden child to the point of destroying their daughter's future, but karma made sure they paid the ultimate price. Now I want to hear from you. What would you have done if you were in Liya's shoes? Would you have gone to the police, or would the pressure of family have made you hesitate? Have you ever experienced a betrayal like this from someone you loved? Let me know down in the comments. I read every single one. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss another story. Until next time, stay safe and remember to always protect your peace.